Cognify, Episode 3, The Sand and the Grind, the Analog Tapes, Dispatch 003. The signal is still live. The hard line is holding. I'm looking at the monitors. The digital hash is spreading across the eastern seaboard like a virus. The state is suffocating the grid, trying to enforce a blackout so they can quietly load the buses. They think if they shut off the lights, you'll forget who you are. They are coming for me tonight. But until that door splinters, I own this frequency. In the panopticon, Elias is calibrating his machine. The Cognify system is waiting to map my brain. He wants to isolate what he calls the dark matter, the trauma, the defiance, the grief. He wants to use his algorithm to violently override it, to flip the black pieces on my internal board to white, until I am nothing but a pacified, compliant shell. He thinks trauma is a glitch in the human operating system. He thinks it's a disease he can cure. But Elias doesn't understand the sand, and he sure as hell doesn't understand the grind. I want you to leave this dark room with me for a minute. It is 2003. You are 20 years old, and you are thousands of miles away from the cramped, shadowed hallways of a Jersey City row house. You are in Iraq. The heat doesn't just sit on your skin. It presses into your lungs like a physical weight. You're rolling through the desert in convoys, and the air is impossibly thick with tension. Every single mile of dirt is a question mark. You live with the constant grinding threat of IEDs hidden beneath the dust and the debris. This isn't a movie. There is no soundtrack. There is just the roar of the diesel engine, the smell of sweat and gun oil, and the hypervigilance vibrating in your teeth. Overpasses aren't just concrete bridges anymore. They are ominous landmarks. I will never forget the radio cracking from the scouts ahead. 2 dump trucks were parked on an overpass, and 2 bodies were hanging from it. A message scrawled in blood and silence: keep out. We had to change our route. We had to adapt on the fly. And then there are those moments where adaptation isn't enough, where the math of the universe just decides who walks away. I remember an IED detonating just 2 vehicles behind me. The shockwave punches the air out of your chest. The dirt rains down like shrapnel. The difference between life and death in that exact moment came down to sheer luck, seconds, and positioning. A fraction of a second, a coin toss, that could have been the end. You don't walk away from something like that unchanged. It burns itself into your soul. It teaches you that resilience is your lifeline in a war zone. Without it, you crumble entirely under the weight of fear and uncertainty. Elias looks at those memories and sees damaged code. He sees an Iraq deployment as a stain on the human psyche that needs to be digitally bleached. He doesn't realize that the fire doesn't just burn you, it forges you. When you survive the absolute chaotic violence of a war zone, it builds an indestructible architecture in your mind. It teaches you how to govern the internal agents of panic. When the IED goes off, the body wants to freeze. The mind wants to shatter. But the suppression layer, the part of you that refuses to die, takes the wheel. It forces you to breathe, to check your gear, to return fire, to keep the vehicle moving. You don't erase that dark matter. You weaponize it into strength. But here is the hardest truth I ever had to learn. And maybe it's the one you are living right now. Surviving the sand is easy compared to surviving the quiet. You come home. You trade the Kevlar for a flat top grill in a restaurant. You try to build a normal life. You have kids. You hold those children in your hands and you promise the universe you will build a wall around them so high that the violence of the world can never touch them. But life is a war. If not with bullets and bombs, then with bills and heartbreak, uncertainty and regret. The adrenaline of combat is replaced by the soul-crushing exhaustion of the grind. You put your head down. You refuse to buy into the singularity. You watch the tech bubbles rise and burst. You watch the middle class get hollowed out by algorithms, and you just keep working the grill. You try to be a good man in a world that stopped rewarding good men a decade ago. And then the quiet fracture begins. It doesn't happen all at once like an explosion on a dirt road. It happens in slow motion. The marriage starts to break. The silence in the house becomes heavier than the heat in the desert. You're fighting desperately to hold a family together when you can feel the foundation turning to sand beneath your feet. The agony of heartbreak, betrayal, or loss, that is a different kind of combat. It is a war of attrition. Some of you are listening to this right now have never been to a physical war zone. You've never had a dog tear into your calf, and you've never seen a body hanging from an overpass. You think that means you don't know what resilience is. You are wrong. Resilience isn't exclusive to soldiers or survivors of violent attacks. It is in the single parent working 3 jobs just to put food on the table. It is in the person battling depression just to make it through another day. The daily fight, the small, conscious choices to not give up, to keep moving forward even when the world feels like it's crushing you. Those are micro acts of resilience. Don't estimate them. They are your training ground. Every single day, you are fighting some kind of battle. Resilience is your armor. It doesn't guarantee you won't get wounded, but it ensures you won't be defined by those wounds. You keep moving. You bleed if you have to, but you refuse to surrender. And that is exactly what the state is terrified of. They don't want a population forged by the grind. They don't want citizens who know how to take a hit, heal, and come back harder. A resilient human being cannot be controlled. A resilient human being knows that pain is not a prison, it is a proving ground. So they built Cognify. They built the glass room. They want to take the man who survived the sand, the man who survived the divorce, the man who ground out a living while the world burned. And they want to strap him into a machine to overwrite his soul. They want to replace hard-earned analog resilience with synthetic digital obedience. They are going to try to break me tonight. They are going to use my own history against me in that capsule. But copper remembers what circuits forget. If you are hearing this, don't run from the friction in your life. Don't let them numb you. Keep your scars, own your dark matter. It is the only thing that proves you are still alive. Two futures remain. The storm decides nothing. You do. Keep it analog. Keep it human. This is Ace Rivera standing by. This is It's Just Raw.